Hello and welcome to Jamie TV, streaming 100% live on YouTube and trying not to piss your pants about. Today I am going to be taking a look at the new Tonestack Pro, and I am going to be looking specifically at what's available in the app for bass players. The reason for this is because, first of all, I play lots of instruments, but my main thing, as always and always will be, the bass guitar. And also I love to make music with iOS devices, iPads and iPads. And unfortunately, until quite recently, there has been very little available of any great quality, in my opinion, for because I'm allowed to have one, apparently, for bass guitar players. Now, let me just in the chat let me know if you can hear what I'm saying, okay, and if you can hear the bass, okay. It's always just reassuring when somebody does that. Okay, so I love to make music with iOS devices and I love to play bass. There's not been that much available until quite recently of any quality for bass guitar players. Now, Tonestack Pro, Tonestack has been available for quite some time, and what happened was Tonestack was not an A. Hey Ed, can you hear everything okay? Hey, no, but so yes, Tonestack was not an AUV3 app. It had been around for a long time. Thank you very much, Ed. And so recently they have updated Tonestack to Tonestack Pro, which is AUV3. And of course, the thing about it is Yonak really wanted to just update the app that people had already purchased, but it wasn't possible to do it that way, and unfortunately, due to the way the App Store works, they haven't been able to make it possible for people to transfer things that they've already purchased in the old Tonestack over to the new version, because this is a completely new app. It's kind of a rewriting and improving of the original. And so what they've done is they have made it so that you can buy the new app for £5. And I think the old one is still a tenner. And also you can buy every single thing that is available as an in-app purchase for, I think it's £20. 20 quid. I mean, I got a code for it, so I've got everything. I'll be totally honest about it, but I'm pretty sure for 25 quid you can get the whole lot. So the reason I wanted to kind of really get on this and get it done is because I think it's important that if this is of any interest to you, then you should get this app right now while you can at this price. Okay, now I wanted, because a few people have already done videos about Tonestack Pro, I thought, right, I'm going to make my first one about Tonestack all about what's available for bass. So I guess there might be some people watching this video that haven't even looked at the old Tonestack. So if that is the case, I want to do a very quick overview of what it is. So I've actually got this app open inside of AUM because it's AUV3, and because I've just been having a bit of a jam around with some with a bit of backing on and just playing a few things. But you can open it in standalone, and when you open it in standalone, it has some other features. It has a recorder, and you can play MP3s or WAVs in there to play along to, stuff like that. There's a whole lot of other features, and I'm going to cover those in other videos. We are focusing just on what's available for bass today, and so as you can see, I've just been having a bit of a play around, jamming around with a few effects, quite a few effects. I selected myself an amp and a speaker, and you know, a delay and a reverb and all kinds of crazy sounds. And I've just built this up as I've been going along having a play. I'm just going to save my session, which I do by tapping this window up here, and then I go down to the bottom, and because I've already named my session, the button I need to press is this one just here. Save rock session. Okay, now the new version of Tonestack has this fantastic viewer for presets, and it does come with a whole bunch of really cool sounding presets. The bass ones are all in with the guitar ones. So what you can do if you want to find specifically the bass ones, there's a little search thing down here, and we can go down here and we can type in bass, and then you'll get a list of all the ones that have got bass in the title. Now there are actually 3 up here at the top, I believe, that aren't actually bass presets. They are guitar presets where an octave pedal has been used to put a bass sound in, you know, that way that sort of like White Stripes might do. So the guy can play guitar and it plays a bass line along with his riff. So there's actually, I think, 15-ish bass presets, and they're all okay, you know, they're pretty good. A lot of them are presets like were in the old app, and I think that we can do better than the presets that are there. So what I'm going to do is, rather than just kind of doing a preset playthrough video, I'm going to build some presets from scratch. So what we'll do is just come out of here. How do I do that? Right. Okay, I don't want this list anymore. Yeah, there we go. Right, so I'm going to press initialize, and now we've got nothing. So we go up here to units, and then we can select whether we want an amp or a cabinet or a modulation effect, etc. But there is a category here specifically for bass, and these are the things that we are interested in today. Now there are some of the guitar effects that work pretty well with bass, but first of all we're going to focus on what's in here. Now there are a number of amps, and I'm going to start with an amp because that seems sensible. So right now my bass is just straight into my iRig Pro Duo, into the iPad, completely raw. Let's just, before we do anything, let's just have a look at the tuner. Now there is a tuner up at the top, which is very, very helpful, and you can switch it on and off if you want to, but I just leave it on all the time because you may as well, aren't you? And if you press this button here, it pops out to a nice big version. So let's just make sure I'm completely in tune. And a nice thing about this tuner is it will do, if you're into those kind of strange tunings that are slightly off standard pitch, you can use this control here to change, and you can also do detune steps. So if you play in E flat, something like that, then it will do that too. So I'm in tune enough for this. So let's go to units, go into bass, and what we see, what's pricey, Ed? Still a bit pricey for you, but you unlocked it fully while it's still affordable. And I think that is, you know, that's what I'm driving at. That's what I want people to do. If it's of any interest to you at all, get it now while you can, because it is well worth having, which I aim to show you as I go along. So there are a number of amps in here. Now, which one to start with? I'm not going to kind of try and go through every single thing that's available. I want to kind of just try and give you an overview of what it can do. Now, I've found that this Bass 700 Mark II amp is a very usable, very versatile amp. There are some others that are much more sort of characterized. like for instance the B15, which is a very popular old Ampeg, which this is an emulation of. I'm just going to kind of centralize some controls here. Right, okay, now this amp, it does actually sound rather a lot like the original, and what we can do is, in the very classic sense of an amplifier, is we can balance gain against volume. Some of the amplifiers are simpler, some of the amplifiers are quite a bit more complicated than this one. This is a nice place to start. So if I take the volume down and crank up the gain, now one thing you will have to bear in mind is, because I'm using a microphone to speak to, the microphone is picking up the acoustic sound of the bass as well as the what's coming through the app. So it's kind of let me just shut off the mic a moment just to demonstrate what I mean. Which is unfortunate, but I can't really do it in any other way. But what I will do is I'll close out the mic a few times so that I can then demonstrate it a bit more effectively to you. Okay, so let's crack on. Right then, so I'm going to take the volume down a bit more and take the gain up. Just take it all the way for example purposes. Okay, so if you wanted to get that kind of like really dirty front end amplifier sound, we've got that. Take it back a little, bring this up a bit more. This might be nice for kind of a pick attack kind of sound. Right, okay. Maybe a little less gain than that for a, and compensate with a bit more volume. Alright, okay, so we've got bass, which I don't think we need to add any bass to this particular amp, but what we can do is we can select a mid frequency to boost or cut, which is extremely helpful. I think actually about there, slightly boosted. Is quite nice. And this amp also has an ultra low setting. If you like those kind of lower subbier noises, bass sounds, ultra high. If you need that extra top end clarity, which is sometimes very helpful to cut through in certain kinds of mixers. Let's just finish my coffee. Oh, what's that we're saying in the chat? Picture frozen, line crash. Oh dear. Is there a problem with my stream, or is that your end? Oh dear. Everything seems to be okay as far as my stream here. Can somebody just, if you're still out there, people, please type something in the chat to let me know that you're still there. Well, Samuel's here. Samuel, welcome to the stream. Are all the effects stereo too? Working fine here. Thank you, Samuel. That's very reassuring. There's nothing worse than sitting here on my own in the studio thinking, oh, am I still going out there? Thank you, Mr. Rees. Okay. Are all the effects stereo too? There are numerous stereo effects. that have, you know, that means like panning and spread and stuff like that. I'll show you some of that as we go along. Right, so we've got an amp, and it's a nice kind of a traditional dirty sounding amp. And I think that the gain on the front end of this is very, very nice. It's very realistic, and a lot of people have questioned whether the sounds in this app are much improved on the last one. Some of them are. Some of them actually I think are identical to what they were before, but a lot of them, like the gains, the distortion type effects in particular, I think are clearer. There's definitely more clarity to them, and things like the reverb, the stereo picture of the reverb sounds to me much nicer than it did in the old. I've not had enough time to do too much comparing between the two, but I have done a little, and I have been impressed. So we have an amp. Let's add something else. Let's add a speaker, right? So we go back up here, we go to bass, and I'm just going to kind of be a bit, you know, Captain Obvious, and I'm going to select the speaker that goes with this amp. You don't have to, of course, you can mix and match, but this speaker, here we go. Right, now we've got, turn your bass back up, you stupid hippie. If I switch the speaker out, right, okay. Now I can make this stereo or mono by pressing this button here. Now you'll not hear a drastic effect on a speaker like this one right now, but that will come into play more later. We can switch out a different kind of microphone. And we can move it closer to the speaker, further away from the speaker, or wherever on the cone we would like to mic up, which is nice. You may have noticed that some of the Guitar Rig style apps for iOS have certain things cut out of them that are in the original desktop version. This is one of the features that often gets cut out, but it is here in Tonestack. So let's just get a sound that we particularly like here. Now I'm going to say that that's a nice setup to work with for a kind of maybe, you know, a bit of a classic rock band. It would work for all kinds of settings with a few adjustments. It's a nice place to start. So let's go and find a compressor. Now, one thing that did disappoint me about this app is that there is only one choice of bass compressor. And there is nothing more important when it comes to what you have down on the floor for a bass player than having a great compressor. It would be nice if there were more choices of compressor. And this one is, actually a very stylized compressor. It's based on the MXR, in my opinion, and it's noisy. It's going to be particularly noisy just there because it's appeared after my speaker. But if you want to move something around in your chain, you just put your finger on it and you shift it. I just switched off a moment because it's a very hissy compressor. Now, the MXR that this is based on is a very popular and not cheap compressor. However, it's not really one of my favorites. So basically I want to see more compressors, Yonak. I'm going to switch it up, and it's noisy. Although, you know, I am playing a single coil bass and I am sat in front of 4 screens. There's 2 iPads, my phone and my computer, and that does tend to create, you know, a bit of a bit of that noise there. So right, let's get a sound out of this compressor. This compressor is pretty good for that pretty squashed sort of sound, and it would work well, you know, in a rock mix. But I've found myself unable to achieve the kind of compression sound that I want. Yeah, there is a noise gate, Sam. Yeah, there is. And that of course would come in pretty useful with some of the effects in a guitar rig style app, but I don't want to kind of put that on and not show what the actual, you know, what noise the effects create, because it's important to show things in their true light. And you know, it should be possible with a compressor to set it so that it's not noisy and still is giving us some degree of compression, which this one is all right while you're playing, you know. So yeah, the noise gate would cure that. But even when I turn my bass down, you know, it's making that hiss through the amp, which some, you know, pedal compressors do, and that's why I don't buy those kind of compressors. My signature compressor, by the way, is just doesn't do that, and is available on Amazon, made by Xvive, and it's called the Bass Squeezer. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that switched off for a while because it's a noisy thing, and I'm going to show you some of the other stuff. I'm going to go back into bass, and let's have a go with, let's see now, this kind of there's a few kind of quite outstanding, quite classic things. Let's have a look at a chorus, because chorus is one of the most popular effects to use on a bass for those kind of reasons. And actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch out my amp, because I want to show you, you know, I want to show you more than one, and this is if I press and hold on the amp itself in the viewer at the top, I can then navigate my way to my choices. I'm going to switch it to this one because I found this amp to be the most versatile, and it can give you a real nice kind of dirty rock sound, but it can also be very clean. And for the moment I would like clean. With this one we'll use the boost to add the dirt. Okay, right then, and I'm going to switch out the cabinet for one that goes with this amp. Which is this one. Okay, right. Now there we have a very, very usable bass sound. Let's go with the chorus now. Now the chorus has a button on it to sync to the tempo of the DAW that you are working in, or in this case AUM. It would sync to AUM's tempo. With this chorus we can use this crossover. That was an interesting sound. We can use this crossover. I'm sorry, I'm just reading what you're saying there, Ed. Yes, that's kind of how I see it too. That's how I see it too, Ed. Right, so this crossover, I had to have a tinker. That keeps making a bit of a noise there. Might simply be because I'm playing the single coil bass and I'm touching the iPad screen, which is plugged into the mains and blah 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 blah. Right, so this crossover, what it does is it takes the chorus out of the lower end, which is something I'm a huge fan of. So, in fact, I'll leave it in for now. Let's turn up the rate to a more extreme sound so you can hear what's going on more clearly. Right, then we have a depth of how much we're actually digging that chorus right into your sound. Okay, and the balance is between go. Alright, so now I've taken some of that out of the low end. It becomes clearer. My low notes are still more audible, not affected so much by the chorus. When I play on the higher notes, you can hear it. But on the lower notes, it's not so much there. Let me put that back in. Because the problem with chorus on bass is it sounds wonderful when you're high up the fretboard and you're doing like, if I just change the settings a little bit, it sounds wonderful when you're doing, when you switch it on. Those kinds of things. But then when you play lower down, in a mix it can start to make your lower notes sound kind of muddy, so it's really nice to have that particular feature. So the chorus impressed me a lot. I really like that. And then let's see, now we've also got this, which I really liked. This is the Octave Pedal. Now I have an 8-string octave bass, so I no longer have an octave pedal on my pedal board, but I've kind of become a bit more lazy recently, and I've kind of got a little bit tired of taking tons and tons of different instruments to a gig. So I'm on the gigs where I'm going to use my iPad and my Pro Duo as my rig. I'm going to travel a bit more lightly, and I'm going to use an octave pedal, and I may very well use this one because it's pretty cool. It works. Let's just show you how this works. So we've got, actually I've just remembered, if you double tap in the pedal area, it zooms in a little bit, which is probably kind of useful for this situation. Right, so it will do a low octave if you turn your bass up. So if I play up here, let me just give us, oh, we've got a bit of a noise there. What's that? Why have I got that? Oh dear. Bit of noisiness. Right, so if I play up here, that's putting in a low octave, so I'll bring up the normal again. So it will do me the low octave. I wouldn't really use that, excuse me, sorry, because I have found that when you use an octave pedal to on a bass to put in a low frequency, what's a frequency? And you making up words now, and then you kind of, so you would play higher up the fretboard, because you're getting those low notes put in, it always sounds a little bit dangerous for the amplifier. So I would do it the other way around. I would play low and let the octave pedal do the higher range. Now, this confused me a little bit because this one does a mid-range. Which I've never really found on an octave pedal before. But then this one, the high range, is the one that I would use. So let's just switch it off. There's the volume of my bass without the octave pedal. Match it here. It's slightly quieter, but we're adding in this. So that's now it tracks kind of pretty well. Usually octave pedals, real life actual octave pedals, are pretty bad at tracking, and it actually becomes kind of part of the characteristic of an octave pedal, is that the octave is slightly behind what you're playing. And I've actually recorded that sometimes and left it like that because it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting sound. But this one's good. It's really, Yonak are good at this. I mean, if you consider the Roxin, right, that tracks better than any other bass synth, any other guitar synth I've ever used, whether an actual physical one, a really stupidly expensive one, or a software one. So let's just see how fast I can play. It's a bit early, but let's just see if I can leave it behind. Let's turn it up so you can hear that. No, it's too loud. It's masking the original there. Alright, that's really good. So I may be a tiny little bit disappointed in the compression situation, but I'm loving this octave pedal and I am loving the chorus. Now, just to be totally honest about everything, the Octave from Nembrini, Quinta, sounds fantastic, but it's very much like a real octave pedal in the way that it kind of lags behind a little bit. So if you want that, the Nembrini one is great for that. But if you need it, if you need the octave to be proper in time, I mean, it's worth buying this app to get a fabulous octave pedal for bass and a fabulous bass chorus, because there are some great chorus effects on iOS, but they're not designed for bass, and I've not found one as yet that does that. That scooping out the low end from the chorus. So I'm sure there are better words to explain that, but they elude me at the moment. So octave pedal, definite win-win. Now I want to show you this, because this is an interesting pedal. Now this thing, I have to tell you that when you open this, right, the settings that are set when you open the pedal are the settings for bass, on a bass, to use. Because I spent ages this morning messing around with this pedal, moving the settings around, and nothing I did sounded as good as the way it just is when it opens. And again, this is an effect that a real life version of it you would expect to lag, but it doesn't. You know, it's really nice. Let's put the octave on with it. Let's see what that sounds like. Wonder if I can slap with this sound. Is that overloading? My higher extreme says that level is okay. If I do play anything and it's kind of distorting, if it's too much, do let me know in the chat. But the higher extreme is pretty good for monitoring that. Wonder if I can slap with that. Hang on a minute. Let's just put my little jam on from earlier. I want to close out the mic a moment. Yeah, okay, so Jam went a little bit wayward there, but you know what? It's kind of remarkable, because normally when you play bass and you kick in some effects like a funky kind of a filter effect like this, an octave pedal, you know, it's you kind of have to adjust the way that you play, or you have to restrict yourself to a certain speed, and you know, and I'm not finding that here. So you know what, this pedal, and this pedal for me would make this worth the 25 quid purchase. I mean, let's say if you've got an Umbrini amp for bass that you think is like the best, the absolute dog's bits for bass guitar, right? Well, so what? You know, you buy this because it's AV3 and you don't select an amp. You just make a pedal board, stick it in before your Umbrini amp, you know, or whatever it is that you've chosen to use. You get a tuner with it, and you get all kinds of useful functions with it actually, which I will get deeper into in later videos. But for me, just as a pedal board, this is awesome. Disappointed with the core, with the compressor, but you know, there are other compressors. So anyway, I am liking this. Actually, I had the amp and the speaker off there, so that was just effectively a pedal board DI'd, and I'd sort of I just didn't occur to me to switch them back on. Stupid hippie. Okay, so what have I got switched on at the moment? Just the amp and the... Right. Okay, let's just put that off a moment because it's hissing while I'm talking. The hissing, by the way, is something that I just... yeah, as a bass player, you know, you deal with, and as a guitar player as well, a lot of the time, you know, I did a rehearsal the other night with the band, and every time we stopped playing the song, I put my tuner on, because in that particular room, my gear was hissing, and when we rehearse in a different room that's down the corridor, it doesn't hiss. It's just, you know, one of those things that you deal with as a stringed instrument player. So let's just kind of throw in here something else. Let's throw in, there are some other quite outstanding things here. Now this one, I'm gonna show you this one. This is an interesting one. Now this, I'll just switch it off for the moment, because again we are hissing. The hiss is much worse than it was when I was there fooling around earlier. Right, this pedal is an interesting pedal. The brass, is it blaster or baster? The brass baster. Excuse me. Yeah. All right. So this is the bass. This is the baster. When I change the sensitivity of it, now this is based on a pedal that was designed to sort of emulate brass, and did a very poor job of it, but did kind of produce a sort of a quirky kind of an overdrive, which is really, really hissy. Would that be less hissy if I switched off the amp and speaker, I wonder? Not that I really want to, but it's I'm just concerned about it for the sake of the stream and annoying your ears out there. Right, switch it to brass number 1. Harmonic. See what I mean? It's basically an overdrive pedal, but it does have quite a quirky sound. It's not quite like anything else. If I switch that back, now that might be quite useful. I'm going to turn the sensitivity to I can't say the word. Sensitivity. I'm not drunk, honest. It's only lunchtime. Turn the sensitivity up quite high and bring some bass volume in. And let's butch up the brass volume. See there, I've still got some low end, you know, plenty of filth, but still got the low end, and that's a rare thing to find, you know, with using overdrive with bass. It's a rare thing to find, especially when you're only using one signal path. was fun. Okay, so you know, another pretty cool effect if you like your noisy effects, you know. And you know, I'm kind of a player who likes to play with sort of a slightly dirty sound, but almost clean, sort of a slight bit of a dirt there to it. But I like to have those filthy pedals to stand on to do a bit of a standout noise fest. Why did I press that? I don't know why I pressed that. Idiot. Okay, so let's see what else we've got in here. I'm going to have a look at some of the guitar effects that work with bass in a moment. In fact, in truth, I don't tend to like to think of pedals as being designed just for guitar. People tend to call them guitar pedals, but in my experience, a lot of guitar pedals work well with bass, and in particular, modulation pedals that are meant for guitar work well with bass because they don't affect the low end so much, and that is a positive for a bass player. Seems that a lot of pedal designers don't realise that. For some reason, I'm looking for a pedal. Okay, let's have another noisy one. This is an emulation of a really popular pedal. The bass Muff, the name of which always amused me in all my maturity. Okay, so I've got the blend control all the way over to the left. We've got a clean bass sound. I blend it in. Take the sustain down, blend it up more. Now we have a fuzz sound in the background that you can use with with staccato notes. Right? You could even slap with that. Right, then tone, let's go down to a darker sound. Bring in some of this. Hang on, take the blend down. Put more sustain in. Now blend that in. Hi, Grant. I don't seem to be able to play in any key other than A today. Normally it's E, but today it's A. Well, you know, it's a useful key. Right, and then if you kind of put some more of that sustain in, yeah, it gets noisy. I mean, the Muff is popular because of its like out of control possibilities, right? So let's just kind of actually let me just show you what happens if you go all the way over. Good to trim down a bit of volume on that. We can brighten that sound up. When I do, if I bring the blend back, just put some low end back in. I do love how these dirty pedals, it is possible to retain the low end. It's something that is so lacking in so many pedals after so many years of bass players complaining about it. All right, so that's a pedal I would use. That's a great pedal. I'm going to do one more, and maybe I should show you some more amps. I don't know. Tell me in the chat. Do you want more? Do you want? Oh, well, that sounds from musical history. Flash. I'm going to show what that means, Nobat. Tell me more about what you mean. I'm confused. What was I saying? I have no idea. All right, yes. Tell me in the chat. Do you want to hear more amplifiers? Or are you more interested in the effects? I think that the value of this particular app is more in the effects actually, but let's just go with one more effect from the bass thing, which is another overdrive that has a very different tone. Right, now this one has a much more of that, you know, that kind of like really ballsy, filthy, more modern metal distorted bass sound, in my opinion. We're back to E. If we take the tone down a bit, this becomes quite pleasantly dark. The gain is only here. As you can see, I can wind this up way more. And I mean, the possibilities of this single 3-knob pedal are stunning. You can hear that it goes really filthy, but I can also switch it off and match my volume there. Okay. I can also get a nice kind of like a funk fuzz. That's a bit much, but okay, that's as subtle as it goes. You like the bass overdrive, Grant? Yes, I do. Again, it's another one I would definitely have a place for on my pedal board. I would use this. In fact, I have a couple of real pedals that sound pretty much like that. So, so far, kind of, yeah, we've looked at pretty much all the bass pedals, apart from there are 3 EQ pedals. See, 3 EQ pedals, only 1 compressor. Now these 3 EQ pedals, you know, I don't need to show you what an EQ pedal does. They're very, very effective. And the one I found works best is this one, the bass EQ10. I'll just throw it into the chain so you can see it. I'm not going to show you all 3, but this one, I mean, I would typically have an EQ pedal. Actually, I'd have that back there as well, but typically I'd have an EQ pedal at the start, or pretty much near the start, although Octave would go like that. Anyway, so as you can see, it's got 10 frequency bands, and it really gives you a lot of sort of fine-tuning control. I'm not going to dwell on that too much because, you know, we all know what an EQ pedal does, but I'll take my word for it, that one is really, really good. The others are fine, but I kind of, for me, if I've got the option of like 10 bands or less bands, I'm going to go with 10. Right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, shall I save this or shall I just bin this off? I'm going to bin this off. I don't need to save this. I'm going to go here and I'm going to press initialize. I'm going to grab a different amp quickly and show you some effects that aren't meant for bass but sound good on bass. So let's grab, I'm going to grab the Orange. Now Orange is an amp that I wouldn't buy, but the reason I wouldn't buy an Orange is because I like the tone of an Orange, but they I've never found that versatile. The basic tone that they come with is nice though. I mean, listen to this. And that sounds a lot like an Orange. if you wind up the gain on this one, you get this. You don't get the filth that you would get from winding up the front end of some of the others. You can get some overdrive, but it's not like... I do like that, but it's a little bit too thick a bottom end for my taste, which it doesn't have the capacity EQ wise to wind out. But if you like that orange type of sound, this would be for you. I mean, it's cool as an emulation. Right, okay, and then I'm gonna grab a couple of things that aren't meant for bass particularly. Now, I would never ever go on a gig ever unless I had my flanger pedal with me. Now, if we look in modulation, because what I've been doing up to this point is I've been looking in the bass section and just choosing from effects that are specifically for bass. But if I go back here, now I have a list of things divided into categories. So we've got amps, cabinets, distortions, filters, modulation, etc, etc. I love my modulations. I'm crackers about modulations. We've got a studio flanger, we've got a pedal flanger, flanger stranger. I've not tried that one yet, actually. I don't remember trying it in the old app. We have a more complex flanger. Now, for live, I like simple pedals. Simple pedals that maybe don't have tons of options on, but just sound great. Because I've found with pedals is the problem with real pedals, you stick them on a board and you throw them in and out your boot, in and out of a van, on stage, off stage, over and over again, repeatedly. I mean, for me, up to the beginning of lockdown, that would be about 200 times a year. So the less complex they are, the less things there are to just check just before you go on stage, and the less things there are to get knocked and go wrong. And pedals with little switches on, like, oh, no, don't give me pedals with little switches on. So let's go with the simple flanger, and we'll stick it at the beginning of the chain, turn up the bass, now we can hear it, right? And then we'll go over here. Right, so all we've got on this flanger, we've got a button to give us the option of syncing to a track, we've got a rate and a depth and feed. I forgot about feed. Right, okay. I like my flanger with a really low rate. This is particularly good for when you pick playing. Where's my pick? There we go. I like it when a flanger does that. When it kind of, you know, because if you're playing one of those rock bass lines that's very, very straight, you know, where you... It's just nice to have that movement in there. You know, your finger's not moving anywhere, but the sound is evolving somehow. Let's try it with a little bit more depth. Yeah, okay, and let's just knock that feed up. That's wobbling a bit too much for me. And something I've found when using a flanger like this, where if you're using a pick, if you kind of turn the pick slightly on its side, like I'm always telling my students not to do, it slightly scrapes the round wound strings. Just adds to that kind of edge. Yes, sort of accentuates what the flanger is doing. Right, now Samuel asked about are all the effects stereo? Now, what I've noticed as I've been doing this, because I've kind of had it in mind all along, something I should have checked a bit more up on before starting to do this. Everything that you throw into the chain that is capable of doing mono or stereo has this button on, and you get a little indicator in the top window when you press it to say that you've gone to stereo or back to mono. Right, now I'm not seeing that on this pedal here. A pedal like this in the real world would not be stereo usually. You can get flanges that are stereo, but a more basic one like this, a more old school one, wouldn't be. Right? So now, and the thing I wanted to say that I almost forgot was that most of the things I've been throwing into the chain have had that button on them. I've been noticing it. Right, so we've got another modulation that I would never go on a gig without would be a phaser, and I want to show you how good. There are a number of phasers actually. There are loads of phasers, but I want to show you how good just the very basic one, that it's totally obvious what it's modelled on, sounds. Right. Right, the very, very famous orange one knob phaser. Often if I do a solo live, I'll stand on my pedal that this one is obviously based on a very slow speed, try and play some slow bends and stuff. Okay, so I've been going at it for a little while now, and I don't know actually how long for. I can't see a clock from here. I have no idea. Probably over an hour, I would imagine. So I'm gonna kind of start to wind up soon. So tell me in the chat if there's anything in the app that you'd like to ask me about, or anything that you would like me to demonstrate. There are a couple of things that I still very much want to show you. So here's a way of thinking about this app that I'd like to put forward to you. So once again, I'm going to go to the bottom, press initialize, and I'm going to go and I'm going to press that. So I've got a blank page, and I'm going to go to the unit section, and I am going to choose an echo. Now there are lots of delays to pick from and reverbs, and I'm going to tell you now that I think all of them, pretty much all of them, are very, very usable, and they all do sound pretty stunning. I'm going to choose Cosmic Echo because it's obviously based on my very, very favorite sounding thing, and I'm going to tell you very, very quickly, right? I have the Roland RE20 pedal, which is based on the original Space Echo, and it sounds very close to the original big unit. I worked in a studio once. I was there doing some playing, and I was offered a Space Echo that was a little bit worse for wear. It did kind of work, but it wanted some attention. And they were throwing it out. They said I could have it if I wanted it. Obviously, this is quite some time ago. And I looked at it, And to me at that time, as a somewhat younger man, I looked at it and thought, what do I want that old piece of crap for? Right? I could have had a Space Echo that did actually work, and I would kill to have that now. And it went in a skip. Please don't cry, but it went in a skip. Unbelievable. Now, if you want a software emulation, there are numerous emulations of the Space Echo because it is such a... Can I demonstrate a split signal for bass? One clean and one distort channel. How you would personally like to set up your sound for that? I can, actually, yes. And it can be done in this app, and I don't know if I know how to do it in this app, but I'll have a fiddle with that in a moment. All right, yes, good suggestion, Ed. All right, so yes, the Space Echo is a classic effect. There are many emulations of it, and this is a good emulation of it. So in the Space Echo, I'm not going to give you kind of a total run through of how a Space Echo works. Most of you probably know. I'm just going to demonstrate how nice this sounds. So let's just go to one head, and no, I'm going to go with a longer delay. Not that long. Okay. Right. Let's throw some more feedbacks in there. Very useful for bass. Let's cut a lot of low out. If you ever look for a delay to use on a bass, get one where you can cut the low end of the echoes. Saturate it a bit more. Now, I'm going to bring in the flutter. A little bit more of that. Right, and before I do anything else, I'm going to add a reverb. The one thing that this unit doesn't have on it that the Space Echo is very famous for is the reverb, which when I demonstrated the TD21 designed by Paul, that does have that. It's a much simpler copy of a Space Echo than this is. It doesn't have the mode selection features that this has, but it does have the reverb, and that does sound remarkable. Let's throw a reverb on here. We're going to use the zone verb. Just to delay off a moment. That'll do as it is, I think. We'll maybe just put a little more decay on it, a bit more in the mix. Whole sound is fine. Right, put the delay back on. Go to my neck pickup here. You know, all that stuff, wonderful. These sound remarkable. And okay, so my suggestion was that you could look at this purely as an effects chain, and there we have a stunning emulation of a Space Echo and a great sounding reverb. You know, people spend 20 quid on a great reverb for iOS. 25 quid. I said this is well worth it. Okay, so Ed wants... You want a Billy Sheehan kind of split channel. Okay, all right. So Billy Sheehan splits his signal at the bass. So Billy Sheehan has two outputs from his bass that go to two preamps, two compressors, 2 overdrives, 2 amplifiers, and the top end is all the low is scooped out. It is just the kind of the articulation, the definition, the and that's the one that's particularly overdriven. And then the low end is heavily compressed and is a great solid thumping bass sound with a lot of sort of the low mids pushed. Right, here we're going to split a signal. Making it easy on me, yeah, thanks Ed. Right, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go and have my lunch because my stomach's starting to rumble and you do not want to hear that coming across the microphone. I'll have to suddenly keep playing a big chord if it's going to happen. Okay, so there is a utility that allows us to do this, and I haven't actually used it for years. I've used it in the old Tonestack a long time ago. Let's see if I can make it work. I'm pressing the wrong button. That's how confident I am. Utilities, this is the ABY thing, right? So this would give me ABY split and A. Wait a minute, hang on. I've got an idea. There is there's a bass preset. Bear with me. Is it that one? It's not that one. There, that's the one. Right. Sorry about the noise. We'll just get rid of the noise. Right. Okay. So what we got here then? This is a split. This chain is already split, right? So if I can just kind of get my head around what's in here, because this one is intended for bass, I believe. Or is this one of the ones that's for guitar? Well, it doesn't matter. So if I can, let's have a look at this splitter. I've got ABY. Okay, so yeah, we don't want to AB, we want it to go to both. And then it would mix together at the end over here. There. And the split is, I want to split it before that, don't I? Hang on, green is that? No, right, yeah, so one signal path is there, one is there. Right, okay, let's switch some things out. So I'm going to go get rid of this, don't want this. For my low end, I want just a nice solid bass amp, and I know what I'm going to get for that. I'm definitely going to use, I'm going to need a compressor. Oh, I know, one of these amps got a compressor on it, and it was better than the compressor. Yes, this one. Okay, so I can get rid of this amp. That will do me. And I guess I'll get myself a cabinet that goes with this amp. Let's get a sound out of this amp first. No, I'll set everything up first. Right, so I'm gonna get myself a bass speaker here. There we are. Right, now will I need anything else on that? I think I can quite suitably scoop with that. And then this one, we'll get rid of this amp. I'm gonna need, right, let's switch that out for an amp I can get. Yeah, okay. plenty of drive, but also, right, this one should work for me, I think. And let's throw the amps speaker in there. Throw that in. I'm going to need an EQ pedal, I think, on this one to achieve what we're looking for. So the 10 band bass EQ pedal, yeah, and we'll move that to here. Okay, let's start tinkering around with this then and see if we can make it do what we want it to do. So if I go put this amp on, now I don't want this to be too dirty, I just want this to be solid low end. We want to boost low mids, and we want to take off all the top. We're going to compress this heavily. Yes. Maybe a bit more gain. I think we might boost that mid frequency there a bit more. Yeah. Maybe try a bit lower. Let me just close out my mic a moment. Right, okay, now let's see if I can use this AB pedal to select just, I don't know if that one's off. Yeah, that one's off. Okay, that's what I wanted. Right, so now we're just hearing this section here. So let's get that kind of, right, just articulation kind of a sound. We take all the bass out. I'm going to leave these where they are, because I'm going to use the EQ pedal for okay, it's getting a bit noisy. That's more interference on the bass than it is just looking for those frequencies that we need to, just doesn't want it to be too high. Yeah, right, we can scoop these out. I think something like this. Yeah. Is getting close. And then we can bring up the input a little on that. Right, okay. Now we probably want something to bring some overdrive in here. I'm not getting enough just off this amp, but for now let's just see what we can achieve with this. The balance between the two, that's the low sounding amp, and that blends in the top end. Okay, and now we'll go over here and let's just throw something overdrivey in here. Now actually probably don't need a bass overdrive because I'm just pushing that very top end. So let's just see what's available in the drives. We could probably go with, ooh, so many choice of drives. Don't really want a fuzz. I don't know. Right, let's try this. EQ before or after overdrive? I'm not entirely sure. Alright, okay, I mean that's, let's just get rid of the noise. Okay, so, I mean it's not anything like Billy Sheehan, but you can see how it's done, and I mean, setting up a sound to be like Billy Sheehan would be something that would probably take quite a lot of attention to detail and some investment of time, but you can see that you can split out the two chains of effects. You can blend a solid bass sound with a overdriven sound. You know, I'm sure it's possible to get a lot closer than I got just there, just from some quick pissy panting about. So who knows, that might be something that I have a bit of a tinker with further myself this afternoon. And if I come up with something close, you never know, I might make a little video about it. So anyway, I hope that I've shown you close enough for the amount of time it took you. Well, yeah, it's not fantastic, Ed, but you know, just to demonstrate what the possibilities are. So yeah, there's a lot more to show about Tonestack, but I hope that in this video today I have shown you what is possible for bass guitar in this particular app, and why it is a solid purchase, well worth the money. You know, if it tickles your fancy, if it suits your thing. And what I really want to get across to people is I want them to get it bought now rather than to cry about it later. If you bought the original in particular and are a little bit butthurt about the fact that you can't transfer your in-app purchases across from the last one, I think you know, now is the time. Now is the time to get it back. No bat says bye bye and stay frequently. Thanks, Jamie. I'm sorry about your ignorance. You have nothing to apologise for, sir. Nothing at all. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so I think it's very, very important that if people did buy the original, they have a look at this, see what it has to offer, and get it bought if it's of any interest at all. It's, you know, because the price is going to go up. So thank you very, very much for watching, and for being patient with me. So until my next video, be good people and make lots and lots of music. Send me a message, get in touch with me if there's anything I can help you with. I'm here to help. Bass related, guitar related, iOS music related, whatever. Make lots of music, don't piss pants about, be good people. I'll see you later.